Hello everyone, my name is John Parker117 and welcome back to another episode in the world of Doodle Empires. You guys absolutely loved the first episode, and so I'm back here today. I held a couple of polls in my YouTube community posts, and it was ultimately decided that the Mediterranean would be the one we would play on. And yeah, thank you to this person. I don't remember your name because I haven't looked at it in a while, but this person was the person who suggested the Mediterranean, and their vote went to the top, so shout out to that guy. And yeah, if you like this video, remember to like and subscribe, and if you want to see more Doodle Empires, let's try and hit 1.5 thousand likes. And remember to leave a comment down below saying what map you want to see next in Doodle Empires, and what like theme do you want, like should I have a special nation or whatever. And remember, I do these videos live now. I do them live on my YouTube channel, and if you want to chat during those live streams, either become a channel member or be like my annoying friend who is in the chat just spamming emojis. Let's get started. So we have new nation, the nation that will start it all. It could only be one thing. We're gonna bring in Rome, and Rome is going to be red. And of course, we're gonna start Rome in Rome. So this is Rome's adventure. So yeah, we're starting off big, we're starting off strong with a nice old Rome that controls basically what the Papal States controlled. And yeah, draw a card. Ooh, and they immediately get a medium expand. Well, what they're going to do is they're going to secure their islands that are around them, because they want to control the entrance to the strait. They'll eventually get down to Sicily and be able to control that, but besides that, I think they're gonna just sneak up around here and go along the river once again. There we go. And a new nation has formed, and who can have Rome without their arch nemesis, which I'm going to make purple. We're going to call it Carthage. And they are, of course, going to start down here in Tunis. They don't get as much land as Rome does, but maybe they'll expand. So yeah, we got Rome and Carthage on the map. And I wish there was a thing that where, like, I might talk to the dev about adding this, but imagine if, like, it said Rome or it said Carthage across it. That may be hard to do, but I think it would be really neat. But anyway, Carthage. What does Carthage do? They do a small expand. They're going to take over the islands because they don't want Rome to sneak up and ruin their journey to attempt to go through this Mediterranean water. They also seize Malta, and then they just make themselves a little thicker. They have a new nation forms, which is going to happen a lot. Let's have a new nation down here. Sparta. Sparta's going to form. I think Sparta's somewhere over here. Yeah, I was able to get it all. Also going to take a little bit of that island right there. So yeah, now we got Rome, Carthage, and Sparta. And Eastern Rome, I guess. Yeah, let's see. What does Sparta do? They also form a new nation. Maybe I set new nation to be too high. Let's change that. Game settings. New nation. Let's change it down to 5. But anyway, the new nations, we need to... It's important at the beginning. It's important at the beginning. I could do what I did last time, but I don't think I'm going to. We're going to do Athenas, and they're going to control a real ragtag bit of territory because I wasn't able to connect it. Hopefully they... I set this to 0! Mall expand. They also take some islands, and they work on taking all of these islands. So yeah, we got a rivalry here between Sparta and Athenas, between Eastern Rome and West Rome. I think it's finally Carthage's turn. Okay, whatever. And they get a medium expand. Hooray. Okay, so what they want to do is, like a lot of nations, they want to move along the coast. And they don't want to go into the harsh mountain terrain. But now I think it's finally Red Rome's turn. And they split! Again! Well, I guess this one will be called North Rome. Yeah, Rome is kind of having a civil war now between Byzantium, North Rome, and then just Rome. Will they be able to turn it around? I don't know. Anyway, what do? They immediately do a union. And I assume they're going to unite with Byzantium so they can combine their forces into a better force. And, you know, considering it's a better force, they're now called Better Rome. So yeah, they're now Rome and Better Rome. Anyway, let's go to Sparta. What does Sparta do? A large expand. Now, are they going to be aggressive and just slaughter Athens? Or are they going to attempt to, like, form colonies or something? I think what they're going to do is they're going to take these islands, and they're going to take Crete to try and cut off Athens from the rest of the ocean. They're going to take that island, and they're going to take Rhodes. So now they form like a little shield around Athens, so they can't get up to anything naughty. Sneak up around here. So now they're completely surrounded by land and by sea. What does Athenas do? Facing the pressure of being surrounded, they have a small split where Naxos breaks away on the island. Let's see, what does I think now it's normal Rome's turn. They do a small expand. Okay, they're gonna push into the north. north, and I think they're going to completely remove them from at least the mainland, or at least they're pushing them into the sea. So yeah, Rome is coming back. Let's see what Carthage does. They're once again just doing a small expand. I think they're going to use it to get a firm foothold in Sardinia and also in Sicily. A new nation. They realize that it's hopeless, and they try to escape. So they form a new nation called Macedon up here. So yeah, and they're gonna have their color change because it's kind of too similar to the ocean. And now I believe it is Rome's turn, and they do a large expand. Is this enough to crush Better Rome? It appears like it is. Oh, it definitely is. Yep, there goes Better Rome. And to celebrate, they march further up here along the mountain range. And Sparta senses that the Macedons are preparing to attack them to free Athens. Well, how do they respond? They get a new leader, which I set to 0. It shouldn't be happening. The Spartans split. They've overextended themselves. They can't keep control of all of these damn islands. A hyper-religious faction of Sparta called the Knight rose up in Rhodes, this area. They try and take all of Crete. I don't know if they're going to be able to take all of Crete. They are able to take all of Crete. They take that island. So now the nations are splitting. Does Athens take advantage of this? Yes, they do. They do a small expand. They desperately bash out to try and reach Macedon, which is their only saving grace. Sparta is really in the deep because their plan is falling apart. They've lost the southern claw of their blockade. The northern claw is being battered. How does Macedon react? A new nation forms. Whispers from a land to the east lead to the discovery of a new kingdom. Kingdom of the Goths. Yes, that's right. The Goths have been found in Crimea. They have weird borders, but that's okay. And what do the Goths do? They immediately split into the better Goth. Actually, no, into the Goth girls. The Goth girls have risen up. The Goth girls have risen up in Sevastopol. Anyway, what does Sparta do to react? Well, they do nothing, but we do learn of a new nation. Echoes from the east. The Goth girls aren't the only people in the east, but echoes of a greater force. They just barely peek out of the east, but they're coming. Anyway, does Athens take advantage? Oh, they do a large expand. Okay, so what they do is they get a border with Macedon, and then they immediately strike out to take back all of their islands, and then they attack to the west to try and kick them off, and they get a foothold on Sparta itself. They get a little encirclement right here, and they cut off the Ionian Islands. Now, the Knights, how do they respond? They respond by doing a medium expand. Now, they have a different idea of conquest. They don't care about Sparta and Greece. They want the Holy Land. So, in order to have a nice base of operations, they do attempt to take over Cyprus, which is successful. They just haven't been able to complete it. Anyway, the Goth girls, how do they react? A union? They manage to seduce the other Goths into joining their kingdom. So now it's the Queendom of Goth girls. There we go. So the Goth girl queendom has risen. Carthage split. Sicily doesn't like being under Carthage's rule. They decide to form their own kingdom with Malta, and they take a couple of islands. Anyway, Sparta, a new nation is formed. Unfortunately, with their plight for the Holy Land, it seems there's someone already there. And what does the new strange state of Israel do? They immediately do a union, which I'm gonna retcon that. What the hell am I doing? Yeah, unite with yourself. And they immediately do a large expand in order to get their borders, kind of. There we go. So yeah, the Knights are gonna have to contend with Israel. What does Athens do? They do a large expand. They think they can have the death blow to Sparta in this war. So they push along the mountain range. They push down the coast, but it's just not enough. They decide to call it off and try again another day. But how does Macedon respond? A union. Now there's only one person they could unite with, and it's their good friends Athens. Two peoples separated because one wanted to escape what seemed like a hopeless situation. A hopeless situation returned to the glory of Athens, which is now the Macedonian Empire, led by Alexander the Great. We're going to call it Alexander's Empire. So yeah, now Alexander's Empire is a third major power. How do the Knights react to Israel just existing? A union. The Knights sense Sparta's weakness, and they usurp the throne and they immediately sign a union with them. Anyway, back to Rome. Rome doesn't do anything, but they do send out an expedition, and they find a new nation of Naples. They find a new nation in Naples that's probably going to be a rival. Anyway, how does Sicily react? A new nation is found. There's a lot of new nations, folks. There's a lot of new nations. Well, they for some reason, they go over here, and they discover Gaul. And Gaul is just a... Oh no, it's like Ethiopia in the last video. Can I undo? Yeah, Gaul is just a tribe. But what does Gaul do? Gaul somehow discovers a new nation. They discover Gaul 2. Gaul 2 lives up here. Anyway, I think it's time for the Goth girls. What do? They do a small expand. They want to secure their position along the Bosphorus, so they expand outwards in both directions. Select nation. Let's do... Actually, no, Gaul hasn't had a turn. Or these guys, but these guys are a colony, so they don't get a turn. A small expand. I'm gonna try and make this actually look like a country. Great, now it just looks like an Among Us. Anyway, Rome. A small expand. They push along here. Carthage. What does Carthage do? A large expand. Okay, so they push, they stretch down here, and they also try and attempt to conquer more of the mountain range. Anyway, what does Sicily do? They medium expand. They're finally able to expand a little bit into their own island. There we go. What does Naples do? A large expand. They need to prepare for the Roman storm they know is coming. So they try and secure all their flanks. They go down this peninsula, and yeah, they shorten their border here, and they remove their border over here. Now they just have one large border with Rome to focus on. Anyway, Alexander's empire gets a small expand. They take advantage of it, and they expand into the Spartus revolt. How does the Spartus revolt respond? They smack back, and they managed to get a coastline on Athens as well. Wow. These guys are real good fighters. Whoa. They've cut off Athens themselves. Athens is surrounded. The Macedonian Empire is going to have to think real hard about it. But the Knights do a small expand. They need to secure all of Cyprus. And then they decide, since there's actually a country here, they need more bases. So they go up into Antioch, and there we go. Goth girls, they get a small expand. They expand on islands down here, and they attempt to connect it, and they are able to. So they're just making a colony down here. The Mongols, what are they gonna do? They split, but the split is off screen, so nothing happens. Or there's a little revolt right here. I tried to skip it. I guess I have to name this something now. The Annoying Orange revolts from the Mongol Empire. And what does the Annoying Orange do? They, of course, do a large expand. Now, they have to remain a circle, so they just expand, and then they become more of a circle, and then they become more of a circle. There. So the Annoying Orange has become an absolutely devastating revolt in the Mongol Empire. Anyway, I give Israel turn. It's Gaul's turn. And of course, they have a small split into Gaul 3. How does Gaul 2 react? They have a small split into Gaul 4. These guys over here are not happy for some reason. So we got 4 Gauls up here. All right, Rome. Small split. Great. Corsica does not like being under the rule, so they decide to revolt, and they also take some islands. How does Carthage respond? They do a small expand. They want to secure Sardinia, so they push up into there. Sicily does a large expand, and I think they take over their island, or at least they cut it off from everyone else. They are able to take their... So the first place to actually unify their home territory is Sicily. I think because of that, they deserve a second turn. A large expand. Wow. So they want to create an empire for themselves. They march us up across the strait, and they take that, really cucking Naples out, so they're rivals now. And then they march across, they take that island, and they want to make a little colony down here. Anyway, Alexander's empire, how do they respond? They have split. Athenas is back in the cut off parts of the empire, and also a lot of the islands, like all of the islands, and that. Yeah, they make a large push. How does Sparta respond to this? They split as well. I can't believe I'm starting this again. But the Spartan Peace Union, who doesn't want Sparta to be at war anymore, forms in the south. Now the Goth girls, what do? They do a small expand. Now in the commotion of this, they want to retake their hold on the Dardanelles Strait. And they also push out of here a little bit. All right. Oh yeah, we need to do Gaul. I'm only gonna do like 2 Gauls. Are you fucking kidding me? Fine. Gaul 5. Give Gaul 5 a turn. Medium expand. Woo, yippee. Give Gaul 2. A new nation. Great. Gaul 6. Gaul 6 is down here. So yeah, we got Gaul 1, Gaul 3, Gaul 5, Gaul 2, Gaul 4, and Gaul 6. All right, now it's time for Rome's turn. They have a small split again. Man, Rome is not doing too hot. You know what? One annoyed guy, he's pissed off, and he is going to take over this. So one annoyed guy has taken over this island, and that's the revolt. Anyway, Carthage, a large expand. They're gonna push up and take the coast of that, but they need to start going further. They take the Balearic Islands. They take all of Sardinia, actually. And they're finally ready to start chipping away at Sicily. So they retake some islands, and the battle for Malta begins. Let's see, does Sicily respond? They do respond. They take back Malta. They take some islands. They take an island really close to Tunis. That's making them real scared. They conduct naval invasions, even in Sardinia itself. Now, how does Carthage respond to this? They need to push them out. So they're able to push out some, if not all, but they aren't able to go any further. But maybe they'll have help from the north. Naples, a large expand. I think they're able to take out their revolt, and they're going to push Sicily out of mainland Italy. And they get a few encirclements along the way. Now, Alexander's empire splits again. Wow. I guess we'll just bring Greece in, and Greece will take like the center, even though I really need to give you a better color. And Greece is becoming confusing. Okay, so revolting Sparta does a small expand. They kick them out of Sparta, and the revolt is successful. They make peace with Greece because they are also a revolting tag, but they just island hop against Athens. How does Athens respond to losing their capital? They attempt to take it back, but they can't break through the island chain, so all they can do is take back the islands and get closer. Goth girls, what are you up to? They split. No, the Goth girls. The Goth boys are sick and tired of this matriarchy. They are sick and tired of this matriarchy. They break out and they invade the Strait. The Bosphorus and the Dardanelles fall to the Goth boys, and they immediately do a large expand. They want to connect their entire, they want to form like a little ring around the Strait of Marmara, and then they push south. They take this island and they push south some more. Rome gets a medium expand, so they push through the mountains, and they're almost at Naples. How does Carthage react? They do a small expand. They declare war on Corsica to prevent the Romans from retaking it, and they almost kick them off of the island. How does Naples respond? They do a medium expand. They take this island off of Sicily because they don't think they should have it. And Naples actually makes the first strike against Rome. They push up through the mountain valleys, and then they attempt to get an encirclement, but they're not quite able to close it. Rome does not like that, and they do a large expand. But their strategy is a little bit weird. They, instead of cutting like here or cutting across or just pushing them back, they go straight through the mountains. If anything, almost getting themselves more encircled, but then a masterful blow. Bow, bow. The entire Napoli army is destroyed in this maneuver, and they also push a little bit right there. How does Naples respond? They somehow find it in them to have a large expand, so they push up against Rome again. They're not going to make the same mistake they made last time. All right, Macedonian Empire. They get a medium expand. I think they just want to focus on their direct neighbors. They accidentally do a attack on the Goth boys. They didn't mean to do that. Considering they're Goth boys, I assume the punishment will be severe. And they basically invade all of the successor states. Athena's, revolting Sparta, and Greece. So they're declaring war on all of them, and they're basically drawing them all together as partners. They do a large expand, and not wanting to harm their allies, they just expand against the Macedonian Empire, and they manage to push them up to this river. They take that island. They're surrounding them, but they are stopped. Athenas, they sign an agreement with Sparta. Now that they're allies, they sign an agreement that allows them to retake their capital and a little bit of extra land outside of it, and this island, or at least half of this island. Anyway, the Knight, they get a medium expand, and I think it's finally time that they attack for the Holy Land. So they land up here, and they march downward. How does Israel respond? Oh, they do not like that. They absolutely crush the revolters. I mean, the Knights, and they're left in a pretty decent encirclement right there. They they're able to break it out with another naval invasion, and they crush the Israeli encirclement that's right there. And then they do little naval invasions in the south, in the Sinai. Anyway, the Goth boys, they do a small expand. They kick Sparta out of their land, and they go further as a punishment. They don't really have any problem with Athena, so they just stay like that. And then our state-mandated 2 Gauls. Fuck me. Gaul 7. Oh my god, Gaul 8! This is just the land of Gaul. We got Gaul, Gaul 5, Gaul 3, Gaul 8, 6, 7, 2, 4. How does Sicily respond? I said, how does Sicily respond? Sicily and Naples, despite being rivals, they realize that Rome is gonna come for them. So they decide to unite and form the Kingdom of Two Sicilies. There we go. So yeah, the Kingdom of Two Sicilies has been formed, and it's a bulwark against Roman expansionism. How does Carthage react? They do a medium expand. They take out Corsica, who is just chilling on the islands for a while. The one annoying guy on the island will just leave alive. But they do take Corsica, and they just expand a little down there. Macedonian Empire is on its last legs, but they large expand. They kick them out of the east, and they do a naval invasion right here against all 3 of the tags. Oh yeah, they also take out the monks, which have been sitting here for a while. Do a naval invasion and almost cut off the Spartan army from reinforcements. They are able to go through Greece, however. Yeah, how does Greece respond? They do not like that at all, so they push the entire naval invasion out. And they make border agreements with the Spartans to give back their lands. Sparta does a small expand. They expand up into the rest of the Macedonian Empire. And what does Athens do? A medium expand. They help out by naval invading from the east. And the Macedonian Empire is truly on their last legs now. But anyway, the war between Israel and the Knights continue. A large expand. They want to make a mad dash to the Holy Land of GBGBG. And they take it. And they also push down in Lebanon. But how does Israel respond? A union. Well, I guess Israel capitulates. After losing Jerusalem and they're being pushed back here, Israel capitulates. And they unite with the Knights. It may look like Israel just took the Knights, but they come to an agreement to form the Holy State of Jerusalem. The Holy State of Jerusalem, who is gonna be pink. There we go. The Goth boys. How do they respond? A union. They understand the pain and sorrow that Athenos has gone through this entire game, and they offer them salvation. And Athenos accepts. So the Goth boys are now in control of almost all of the Aegean. What about the Goth girls? A union. And the Goth girl and the Goth boy, they come together and they're like, hey, maybe us breaking up was a bad idea. We should get back together. And then they made out and united. So yeah, we're gonna change you to black because it's emo. How could I forget? Or goth. It's goth girls. So yeah, the Queen of the Goth girls is back, and they are an empire now. The Mongols get a large expand. They need to contain the annoying orange, which they end up doing. Alright, time for my least favorite part. Gaul? Fuck. What are we even on now? Gaul 10? Gaul 10. I think I skipped a few numbers. Yeah, I think I skipped 9. Well, whatever. We'll probably get another one I could rename to a union. Finally, there's gonna be less of them. You're gonna unite with the new Gaul 10. So we're back to having the right numbers. Alright, out of Gaul. That horrible, horrible place. Well, how does the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies respond? A medium expand. They waste no time. They attack up and up and up. And they even manage to encircle Rome. Barely encircle Rome. It's very unstable. But what does Rome do? Rome, knowing that it's about to lose, it appeals to the Two Sicilies court, and it makes them a deal. There will be a council of king, one Roman king, one Sicilian king, and one Nepalese king, and together they will form the triumvirate or whatever, and together they form the Roman Empire. Boom. So yeah, that war ended in a very wholesome way. Carthage is scared as hell. They're so scared that they split. Sardinia tries to break away. And in trying to break away, they take over Corsica and these islands and the Balearic Islands and this island really close to home and a few colonies down there. It's pretty much just a split between Sardinia and Carthage. And what do? They split immediately again. The Balearic. I know that's spelled wrong. I don't care. The Balearic Islands split off, And the Carthaginian Empire is slowly crumbling. It's really sad. Anyway, speaking of crumbling, Alexander's empire does a small expand. They make an agreement with the Goth boys to give them back their land here slowly. But it could be the end for them right now, because the revolting Spartans do a small expand. They take it, and they're literally on the edge of life. All right. I'm too scared to do Gaul again. Let's do Rome. Rome immediately splits. Actually, no. They don't split in a normal way. They split in a proper way. Now that they control a little bit of Greece, they're going to help administrate their empire. They're basically going to clone themselves and put them in here. And now it's Byzantium who is going to expand. Alexander's empire, they still desperately try and hold on, but Sparta forms a new nation. I'm just gonna start making random African tribes that don't do anything. Here's the tribe of Glub Glub. They're gonna live down here. Greece. They do a medium expand. They don't really have anywhere to go, so they betray their Spartan ally and they push up into here. Greece is doing their bid for all of Greece. They don't want to share. Anyway, the Queendom of Goth Girls do a medium expand. They want to hold on to this land now, so they connect it. And then I think we'll just focus on Rome, Carthage, Goth Girls, and the Greek conflict. I think we finished our adventure for the Holy Land. Anyway, Rome. Rome splits again. A second annoyed guy rises up in that island. So yeah, we got second annoyed guy and one annoyed guy. But Rome does a small expand. They want to take their islands back from Corsica, who they're Sardinia, who they're technically at war with because they claim Corsica. But they do also want to push along the mountain range. Carthage. They do a small expand, they kick these guys out, and they do an invasion of the Balearic Islands, and they manage to take all of it except for 3 provinces. Anyway, how does Sardinia react? Sardinia splits into Corsica. They actually allow them to have independence because they're nice, but they do keep the north as a bulwark against Roman aggression. These two guys are friends. Anyway, Macedonian, Alexander's empire. Medium expand. They don't want to fight the Goth girls because it's just too much, so they focus on the west. They almost managed to cut off the Spartan army from the sea, and the Spartans are pissed because they got betrayed by their friend Greece. So they do a massive push up into here. How does Greece respond? Do a medium expand. They push them straight back out. Macedonia, they get a small expand. They almost take out the Spartan army. The Spartan army is holding on strong. Corsica has a small split. The Roman sympathizers. What does Rome do? They do a small expand. They co-opt the movement to get a foothold on Corsica, and then they push down. All right, whose turn is it? Greece. They get a small expand. They push into the peasant revolt. What does Sparta do? They push into their revolt, but it goes a lot better, and they crush it. And then they push up into Greece a little more. The Goth girls, what do? Small expand? They want blood. They want blood a lot, so they take these islands off of Greece, and they start pushing the Macedonians. Maybe they will be the people to actually kill the Macedonians. Anyway, back to Rome. Rome gets a small expand. They're going to just keep going along that river. Corsica, they get a medium expand. They manage to kick the Romans out somewhat. Sardinia, small split. They finally decide to let the Balearics go. I still don't care if that's spelled wrong. So they let the Balearics go home. Carthage pushes into the natives, and they manage to crush them all. Alexander's empire gets a medium expand. They push back against the Goth girls. How does Sparta react? Sparta expands smallly. Since the Goth girls have entered Greece, they are now at war with Greece and Sparta, as well as Macedon and Byzantium, because they're all a part of the same civil war, so they are now attacking each other. Greece does a medium expand. They finally take out the army up here, and their goal is to at least get good borders with the eventual Goth girl expansion, but who knows. Goth girls get a medium expand once again. They push across, and the Macedonian Empire is literally on its last legs. Like, no, if this was real life, this country would be over. Anyway, Byzantium. Medium expand. Remember, Byzantium is a subsidiary of Rome. Macedonian Empire has just a little bit left in them, so they attempt to take islands because they're harder to take. And they also try and save their soldiers down here. Sparta splits. They have another peasant revolt. The Holy Land is looking awfully like they're kind of sad about the Greece situation, so they decide to intervene. On what side? On their side. They want Greece now. And so they march off of their islands, and they take the islands from the Goth girls, or they take most of the islands from the Goth girls. But now that means that the Goth girls are at war. All of these guys are now at war with the Holy Land too. So what does the Goth girls do? They do a medium expand. I think it's time for Alexander's empire to be destroyed. They put up a real hard fight. Do they have any pixels anywhere? They have 1 pixel up here. Can they survive the attack? They can! Oh my god, the 2-pixel wonder. They'll have to survive like a few more turns. Alright, Rome. Response. Small expand. They make holes in the Sicilian front line and they attempt to retake as much as they can, but they can't get it all. Corsica. Small expand. They're slowly kicking the Romans out. Sardinia. Small expand. They want to kick the Carthaginians out. They do a small expand. They reorganize their attempts on not all of Sicily's coast, but just the eastern part, and they try and push like that. But now, oh yeah, Byzantine has to go first. Medium expand. They take advantage of the weakness of the peasant revolt, and they sneak around and take all that land. But now, the 2-pixel wonder, what happens? They found a religion. Please help me. I'll let them have 1 more chance. They get a small expand. They know attacking them would be useless, so they go north. They go north into the mountains. How does Greece react? A medium expand. They're more concerned about Sparta and the Goth girls, so they attack into there to try and get a better border, and they attack down there. Sparta, a medium expand. They take out their revolt that they're having. And now that the Holy Land is in the war, they land on Crete and they take over these islands because they want to secure their coastline. They also invade a little bit of Byzantium, but that's the mistake. That's invoked of the wrath of the Roman Empire. So the Rome is now giving supplies and such to the Byzantines, so the Byzantines should do a lot better. Yeah, and they take a lot of islands. If anything, closing off the Aegean to the Holy Land. They react by smashing back in Crete and retaking that. And instead of trying to retake the islands and just taking the islands over and over again, they're gonna go straight for the heart. They invade Sparta from 3 directions. What do the Goth girls do? They adopt a religion. They're going to adopt Tengri. Medium expand. They take advantage of Sparta's weakness and they try and retake Athens, which they are able to. This cuts them off from this area, so they're probably gonna lose that very soon. And yeah, back to Rome. A small expand from Rome. They really need to secure Corsica, so they use their energy to secure Corsica. Does Corsica fight back? They do, and I think, yep, they retake the entire island and they hop to more islands. They even get a little land right there. Now they just look like Genoa, but don't worry, it's not Genoa. Rome is terrified, so they smack back. They're like, no sir, we're wiping you off the map, and there they go. That's what happens when you land on the Roman mainland, and all the other countries now know that. And despite being at war with Carthage and not being at war with Sardinia, they do want that island back, so they invade from the north while Carthage invades from the south. They both race to see who can get the most amount of land, while Sardinia itself, they try and push back as much as they can, but it's just not enough. Yeah, it's just not enough, and Sardinia capitulates. The Romans use their other bit of power, almost encircle the army in Sicily. Alexander's empire. They do a small expand. They're still not going to attack. They're still not going to attack Greece because they know their army would get killed. So they're just kind of moving around. So yeah, they kind of just move around and they make a new kingdom of Macedonia. Well, Alexander's empire, Alexander the Great, is now here. I wonder what else is here. Whatever. So yeah, it's now chaotic over here with all the naval invasions, but how do the Goth girls react? They do not care. They do not care. They retake everything, and as a punishment, they land on these islands, cutting these off, so they fall instantly. Only 2 holdouts are left on the islands, and they're 1 pixel large. Anyway, the Holy Land. Small expand. They also realize how strong the Goth girls are, so they push up into the islands to try and lower the pressure on Crete and Rhodes and Cyprus, and there. Yeah, Tunis is falling, and they get a medium expand, so they go for the heart. They attack Tunis. They roll over the weak Peace Union's troops, and they take Tunis. And how does Carthage respond? Well, they try to retake Tunis, but it does not work. Rome easily takes Sardinia, and they push out the Tunis, and they completely absorb the Tunis Peace Union, and they're finally landing on the mainland, and that's where we'll go over here. Byzantium, medium expand. Now it's time for them to really attack. So I think the castle stopped them. They got stopped at the castle. Alexander's empire, they get a large expand. Now is their time. They attack into South Macedonia, leaving pocket after pocket. How does Greece respond? A large expand. They do not like Macedonia doing that, so they push out, but they're still not connected. Sparta, medium expand. Greece seems like the weakest link, so they start pushing in on Greece just to secure that. And then the Holy Land. The Goth girls do a large expand. Now, they understand the weakness of Greece as well. So they go and they take probably all of Macedonia. I don't know. We'll see. There could be a little holdout left. Yeah, there's holdouts left in the 3 little prongs of the Greek fork. Anyway, back to Rome and Carthage. Rome, small expand. They take this island, they push across. How does Carthage respond? They adopt a new religion. Well, they're all red, so I'm just gonna pick that one. They adopt the please help me religion. And Rome, what does Rome do? Rome expands smallly once again. But we all know how it happens in this. This could turn around at any moment. They adopt a religion again. It's like they're letting Rome win. So, yep, small expand. All right, medium expand. They break out here and they manage to hold back the Romans right here. So they push out and they take the islands for some reason. I don't know why. They just really love those islands. Rome, small expand. They try to reconnect their front line, which works. They get an encirclement, and also this is disconnected now, so they go and retake Malta and such, and they also just keep taking more of Carthage. Carthage has a split. We all know what happens when a country splits. They get a peace union. So a peace union over here in the desert. Small expand. They close the encirclement, get another one, close that one, and then keep marching forward. They just really love adopting religions. I don't know why. Back to Greece. Byzantium, small expand. The castle's really making it hard for them. How does Greece expand? Oh, they push back largely. Their main focus is to try and get Athens back, which they do achieve, but it's not connected very well. That was Alexander's empire. A new nation. Rome, small expand into Carthage. They cut them in 2, and they attempt to destroy the right part, and they do, and then they push up into here. Carthage gets a small expand. They just try and even out the front line. Rome gets a large expand. I think this is the end of Carthage. Being crushed from all sides, Carthage is going to fall. They're encircled, but barely they hold on. And what do? They push back. They push back. They aren't able to push to the ocean, but they are able to push back. How does Rome react? They try and do a dagger straight into the heart, and then split up to form encirclements and then go down. So now they have 4 separate pockets. They completely surround one and they make work on the second. So Carthage is beaten and battered, but they still expand. They expand to connect their front line and they attempt to push outwards to the sea. Rome does not like that, and they cut, they dice, they mint all of Carthage. And that was the end of the Carthaginian Empire. There. And with the power of naval invasions, they decide to take over the Balearics. The castle really does them in, though. They take over the Balearics, and they make a little bit of progress over in their colony. They want to completely remove all Carthaginian influence from the Mediterranean. And it looks like they're going to do it. They take over the north half of the colony, and they swing around their legions, and they take the south of the colony. They also take half of Algeria because they just can, and they're next to it. They might take all of Algeria. They bully Algeria into giving them a port. But yeah, Rome is strong. Remember, Byzantium is Rome, basically. If we look at the origin map, yeah, all the red is the Roman Empire. So yeah, here's the Roman Empire. And the last bit of Carthaginian influence is right here. Byzantium, a small expand. They push the Goth girls out of here and they encircle them. Small expand. They kick out the naval invasion. And they push up into here. Nothing ever happens, really. Except for the Holy Land getting a large expand. Now, this time they decide to retake Crete, as it is their most important island up over here. And they retake the islands. Now, I think they're ready to go on their adventure in Sparta. They're not going to split it up this time. They're just going to have one long offensive. Anyway, Macedonia. Medium expand. They expand against the Byzantines up to the river, but they get in a few encirclements. Anyway, Rome, medium expand. They take out the last of Carthaginian influence, and they keep going down over here. They just go along the coast. The Byzantines, now Greece and the Byzantium obviously have a lot in common. So Greece sneaks into the king of Greece, and he offers him a proposal. If you join us, we can have a dual monarchy, just like these guys have a triple monarchy. We can have a dual monarchy of you and me, and they accept. So Byzantium is now the fan favorite to win, and they immediately small expand to free their troops right here, and then go up there. How does Sparta react? Sparta does not like it, and they do a large expand against Byzantium. They take all their islands. Holy Land, a union. Sparta has the same sort of gist of it. They decide to join the Holy Land. So right now it's the reds versus the pinks versus the blue and the dark blue, which is here, but no one really cares. The Goth girls, what do? They medium expand. They take the islands back, and they go along the coast. Rome hears word of a bunch of weird nations to their left, so they start meandering their way west. Anyway, Byzantium, medium expand. They want to take out Alexander's empire because they're in a very weird spot with their flank. Do that. The new Holy Spartan League, they decide to go all in on the Goth girls. They just take island after island after island after island. How do the Goth girls respond? They do a union. Now, Macedonia and the Goth girls, they were kind of allies, kind of not allies. It was weird, but they are able to convince them. Definitely not with seduction or with like torture or something. I don't know. I'm not a Goth girl. I don't fucking know what they would do. They unite with Alexander's empire. So now it's a 3v3. Byzantium, the Holy Spartacus lead, and the Goth girls. Who will win? Small expand from the Byzantines. The Byzantines take there. Now the Goth girls, they do a small expand. They retake their islands. They cut off this encirclement. They retake these islands. Retake. Pushing them more south and more south and more south. Anyway, Byzantium, small expand. They march outwards, bust into the Aegean Sea. And yes, I did say it like that. They're not really focused on the Byzantines right now. They want to get rid of the Holy Order. Now Byzantium's turn. A large expand. Byzantium barrels down to kick the Holy Order out of mainland Greece. They take Athens and they connect with their other guys right there. How does the Holy State react? A large expand. Well, they need to at least secure Sparta. They take that and they want to secure the islands to the west so that they can block Roman support, and that's what they do. And the Byzantines, they realize something. The Goth girls are too dangerous to be left alive. Them and the Holy Order have a lot in common. They're both Christian, I think. Yeah, let's just say that. They're both Christian, I think. They're both purple. They decide to unite against the Goth girls. So Byzantium is rising. How do the Goth girls react? Well, it doesn't matter that they get to Jerusalem now, so now they just need to push them out of Greece. So they march down here. However, they find no hot topics, so their energy is very depleted. Do a medium expand. They don't really know what their strategy should be, so they just take Athens and they retake this island, and they start trying to get to the coast, because if they can separate them from the manpower of heaven that is the Levant, if they can separate them at least by sea, that'll be the end of Byzantium. But Byzantium gets a large expand. They kick them out of Crete, secure roads in this island, but they just realized something. The Goth girls have control of all of the Aegean Sea. We can't really go anywhere. So they push along the river and they break out. They attempt to retake it, and they do retake it. And it's realized that fighting for Greece and then fighting for Crimea is not going to work, because they'll just push back. What we need to do is we need to do surgical strikes. We need to strike into here, secure a coastline, attack these islands, and then eventually attack the Dardanelles, the Bosphorus, and then we'll have full eyesight of Crimea. If we can take Crimea, they'll capitulate. They don't realize at first what they're doing, so they just continue to march over here. The Byzantines gather their forces, they take more surrounding islands for supply, and then with their full force, they march into the Strait of Dardanelles, and they take it. Now, the Goth girls are in full alarm with this, and they try and take it back, but they're not able to do it fully. Other things on the front line are going well for them otherwise. Byzantium does a medium expand. They kick them out, they push along, and they're in sight of the Bosphorus. So they take this island for support, take this peninsula for a landing spot, and then they boom, jump in here, and they take the Bosphorus. The Goth girls now fully realize what's happening. They're going for the heart, but all they can do is just barely hold on and push back. They are able to retake the Bosphorus. But that's pretty much it. Their new plan is to take this castle, hoping that that'll capitulate them. Byzantium does a medium expand. They decide that they probably should take Constantinople by land in order to better secure it. So that's what they did. Goth girls, they try to make an encirclement around this castle, and the Byzantines realize that that's a bad thing. So they do that to cut it off, and then they stop that, and they push them back from their encirclement, because if they lose this area, the entire plan goes awry. You get a small expand. They're able to push, but just the concentration of troops here is just too much, and they can't push very far. They are able to push far over in Sparta because they don't have many troops there. And it's time. Going from the Bosphorus, they sail, but they don't know where to land. There are two main invasion points, to the left and to the right of Sevastopol, and to the left and the right of the strait. 4 invasion points. These guys march to surround Sevastopol. These guys march to attempt to take that out. And the Goth girls are like, oh no, what's happening? Medium expand. They managed to take out the two naval invasions right here because they weren't really that well defended. And they try and poke to the Bosphorus because if they can close the Bosphorus, this naval invasion fails. But they just aren't able to do it. And the Byzantines, filled with pride, they take Sevastopol, and that destroys Crimea. They just march out in all directions. People, the morale is crazy. The morale is lost, and Crimea capitulates. Crimea capitulates. And with that, the entire Greek army capitulates as well. And they capitulate to the Byzantine Empire, along with Gothic Romania and Goth Azov. So yeah, now we got the West Roman Empire and the East Roman Empire, but they're still technically the same Rome. So this is Rome today. The Romans just connect their territory a little bit. And finally, on turn 402, the East and the West Romans decide it's over. No one can fight us anymore, except for maybe the annoying orange. There's no one left that can stand up to us, and so the ancient call must be realized. The Roman Empire is united. And if you like this video, remember to like and subscribe. And if you want to see more Doodle Empires, let's hit 1.5 thousand likes. And I want to say thank you to my channel members who were able to chat during this video. You saw them in the bottom left corner. And if you want to become a channel member who can chat during these streams, be sure to become a channel member and join one of the streams. And thank you to the channel members on screen right now, and I'll see you later.